Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And do subscribe our YouTube and Telegram channels. Now let's start our discussion.
Russian formalism was an active movement in literary criticism for only 15 years, but made great influence. Today's topic of discussion is Russian formalism. Russian formalism is a movement of literary criticism and interpretation, emerged in Russia during the second decade of the 20th century, and remained active until about 1930. Russian formalism or East European formalism is a school of literary criticism and literary theory that originated in Moscow, also known as Moscow Linguistic Circle, and St. Petersburg, also known as Opujaz, in the 1920s. Russian formalist movement consisted of two distinct scholarly groups. First one is the Moscow Linguistic Circle, which was founded by the linguist Roman Jakobson in 1915, and second one is the Petersburg Opujaz Obsestvo Izusanija Poetического Jayka, Society for the Study of Poetic Language, which came into existence a year later, and was known for scholars such as Viktor Shklovsky, Yuri Tynyanov, Boris Akhembaum, Boris Tomaszewski, and Viktor Vinogradov. Leading representatives of the movement were Boris Akhembaum, Viktor Shklovsky, and Roman Jakobson. It includes the work of a number of highly influential Russian and Soviet scholars, such as Viktor Shklovsky, Yuri Tynyanov, Vladimir Prop, Boris Akhembaum, Roman Jakobson, Boris Tomaszewski, Grigory Gukovsky, who revolutionized literary criticism between 1914 and the 1930s by establishing the specificity and autonomy of poetic language and literature. Russian formalism influenced thinkers like Mikhail Bakhtin and Yuri Lotman, and on structuralism as a whole. As it is giving importance for form and structure, it also had a relevant influence on modern literary criticism, as it developed in the structuralist and post-structuralist periods. Under Stalin, it became a pejorative term for elitist art. Although Russian formalism is often connected to American New Criticism because of their similar emphasis on close reading. Russian formalism is distinctive for its emphasis on the functional role of literary devices and its original conception of literary history. It gives importance for all artistic devices rather than history and writer. That means, Russian formalists advocated a scientific method for studying poetic language, to the exclusion of traditional psychological and cultural historical approaches. These are the basic ideas of Russian formalism. Since literature is made of language, linguistics will be a foundational element of the science of literature. Literary language is distinct from ordinary uses of language, not least because it is not entirely communicative. What a work of literature says cannot be separated from how the literary work says it, and therefore the form and structure of a work, far from being merely the decorative wrapping of an isolable content, is, in fact, an integral part of the content of the work. They gave importance to the role of the metaphor and other linguistic devices. Viktor Shklovsky summarizes this attitude in his definition of literature as the sum total of all the stylistic devices employed in it. According to him, literature is based upon stylistic devices used in that, because it is a personal expression of author's world. He refuted the idea that literature is a social or political product. The main function of ordinary language is to communicate a message or information by references to the world existing outside of language. In contrast, literary language is self-focused, Its function is not to convey information by making extrinsic references, but to offer the reader a special mode of experience by drawing attention to its own formal features, that is, to the qualities and internal relations of the linguistic signs themselves that formalists call literariness. This term is important, so ordinary language is entirely different from literary language. As Roman Jakobson wrote in 1921, the object of study in literary science is not literature but literariness. Trotsky contributed two of their most well-known concepts, that is, defamiliarization. More literally it can be called as estrangement, or making it strange, and the plot story distinction, fabula. Defamiliarization is one of the crucial ways in which literary language distinguishes itself from ordinary, communicative language, and is a feature of how art in general works, namely by presenting the world in a strange new way that allows us to see things differently. Innovation in literary history is, according to Trotsky, partly a matter of finding new techniques of defamiliarization. Literary language is entirely different from ordinary language because of this estrangement. Defamiliarization is the artistic technique of presenting to audiences common things in an unfamiliar or strange way, so they could gain new perspectives and see the world differently. According to the Russian formalists who coined the term, it is the central concept of art and poetry. The concept has influenced 20th century art. The term defamiliarization was first coined in 1917 by Russian formalist Viktor Trotsky in his essay Art as Device or Art as Technique. Trotsky invented the term as a means to distinguish poetic from practical language on the basis of the former's perceptibility. Essentially, he is stating that poetic language is fundamentally different than the language that we use every day, because it is more difficult to understand. There are many weaknesses in the formalists' theory of art. As René Wellick points out, they have chosen a technical, scientific approach to art that would dehumanize art and destroy criticism. The individual artist is ignored here. The emphasis is on form at the expense of thematic content was not well received after the Russian Revolution of 1917. One of the most sophisticated critiques of the formalist project was Leon Trotsky's Literature and Revolution, 1924. Trotsky does not wholly dismiss the formalist approach, but insists that the methods of formal analysis are necessary, but insufficient, because they neglect the social world with which the human beings who write and read literature are bound up. Strong opposition to formalism, both in its Russian and American varieties, has been voiced by some Marxist critics. When this critical mode was suppressed by the Soviet Union in the early 1930s, the center of the formalist study of literature moved to Czechoslovakia, where it was continued especially by members of the Prague Linguistic Circle, which included Roman Jakobson, Jan Mukarovsky, and René Wellick. That's all for today. If you find this video informative, please do subscribe our channel and don't forget to click the bell icon to get the notification of our coming videos. Thank you for watching.